Greetings. My husband and I have been doing some work out in the chicken yard. And I was not intending on doing a video on it at all, but it led to a subject that I thought you might be interested in, and something that might make a good video. As you know, this is our actual third generation of chicks that we have raised from just tiny little 2-day-old babies. We had them in the house for a while, and then we moved them out we built a little coop for them outside. And they've been in that little coop for a good while now, and they just started to lay eggs. On the solstice, actually, we got our first 2 eggs on the solstice, and the second eggs were on the next day, the following day, which was my birthday, which was a wonderful gift. And they're laying pretty regularly now, and I wanted to show you, before I go on, how cute they are. This is one we got today. I don't know if you can see the size of the egg, but I want to give you an idea. This is the size of the egg that they're laying, and this is the size. This is a normal egg that we get from our older girls. A little bit different. I hope the light's okay in here, you can see. But they're still perfectly good, and they will get bigger. As they get better and more practiced, they will lay bigger eggs, but I think they're just adorable the way they are. And we don't know what colors they're going to be yet. We think we're going to have one that's going to lay probably green eggs again, like we have Dixie Chicks lays green eggs. But anyway, I told you before, we put some protection up on the coops. One other thing we do for the chicks, well, we do a lot of things, but one thing that's very important, we try to make their little homes as cozy as possible so they're happy, because happy chickens, happy hens make for lots of eggs. If they're happy, if your chickens are happy, they're going to lay eggs for you. So we're trying to keep them happy, and we're also enjoying having them so much that we enjoy. So now we have the little red hen house out there, and we call it the little spruce coop. It's painted spruce green. Next door to it, which is housing the pullets. And now that they are old enough to lay, we can let them out. The reason we were not letting them out yet is because when the older hens come out, their coop is open and the run is open during the day, so they're out around about their yard, so they can go back in the house and eat and whatever, and they can go back and lay eggs, whatever they do. We didn't want the pullets to go into the big hen house because they were not allowed to eat the food that the hens eat, because it could really hurt them. It's just because of the ingredients in there. Now that they're old enough and they're laying eggs themselves, they're old enough to eat the big food, the layer food. So I'm going to be filming, I think tomorrow. I'm going to be letting the chicks out, the pullets out, into the yard, and I'm going to film it because we're anxious about it, because hens don't always get along with the new people. They've had a lot of opportunity to see each other, but they've not really been next to each other without protection between, a nice fence between them. So anyway, making the story really long. One of the things we do with our hens is we have their names on the side along their hen house, and we've always had them there on boards. I've shown some of these pictures before, and we had to make signs for the new hens, hens coming in, and unfortunately we had to remove some names that had been hanging there of some hens that we had lost over the last year or so, that I just didn't have the heart to take the name off. We become so fond. We become so fond of our pets, don't we? And our chickens are our pets. And I wanted to reuse the boards. These are the boards that we use, and so my husband painted over the old name, and then we put new name on. And this one is a special one, because this is for Edith, my little hobble leg miracle chick. And she just happens to be occupying the board now that Patsy used to occupy. Patsy was our other little miracle hen, years ago when she was younger, she was egg bound, and often that results in death of the hen. But my husband saved her, and she was just our little miracle chick, and we're so happy that we could save her. And she gave us a lot of eggs and a lot of fun and love after that event. But she just, they don't live forever, and things happen. Anyway, so we thought it was fitting that Edith be put on the sign. But so I'm happy that Edith is going on the sign, but at the same time I was really sad that to cover up the names. It just seems so sad to me. And one thing that occurred to me in all of this is I just remembered for some reason, I think it's because we're remodeling our rooms, and in the one room, the room on the other side of this wall, we painted, years ago when I first painted that room as a guest room, I wrote along the wall, I wrote in Gaelic, it says, it translates as peace to your soul and a stone on your cairn. I always thought that was such a beautiful saying, may you, it's like combining a couple things, like maybe you sleep peacefully and wake in the morning, but if you do not, may you be remembered, a stone on your cairn. And I was just very curious. Again, that made me think of the Jewish tradition. I think other cultures maybe do it too, but I think we see it at least in movies. I think it's true. The Jewish tradition of putting small stones by a grave, maybe along the headstone. And I looked it up to see why. And there's a lot of different reasons people give, but people say that stone lasts longer than flowers. Flowers are beautiful but eventually die. A stone will not die and can symbolize permanence of memory and legacy. And it says, the stones are fitting symbols of the lasting presence of the deceased's life and memory, which I really love, because here we're not going to forget our pets. We hope we don't forget them. But, I know a lot of people, especially now that we have Facebook, I can see a lot of people, their pets, they're just mourn so much when they lose a pet. It's almost, and some people are almost inconsolable with their mourning for their pets. And while I tend to think of it more, I'm always very sad. I think it's helped me to have, number one, chickens. It's helped me a lot. It's helped me a lot to deal with the amount of pets that we've had come through here, because we really are, like, in a lot of ways, even though we enjoy our pets, we're kind of in a rescue situation here with cats, particularly. I just made a count of how many pets we've had living in our house, in this house, and it turns out that every pet we've ever owned has lived in this house. When we first came here in 1979, at Thanksgiving time, we came across from Pennsylvania. We drove here with 2 young children and 2 dogs and 2 cats with us, and those were representing our very first pets, and they lived and died here. And we have had grand total, counting cats, dogs, bunnies, not fish. Oh no, my husband says no fish. Cats, dogs, bunnies, chickens, and my daughter reminded me the other day we had 2 parakeets. We've had 2 parakeets. We have a total of 29 pets who have passed here. Many of them are buried here. Some are not, but so we of course remember them, but it just seems so sad when we do things like take their sign down. It's such a final thing, painting somebody else over the place. They can't replace them. So I came to the idea, we have a little altar out in the front of our house, coming from where you can hear the water coming from. And we've had that. We put it up this summer, and I'm going to actually show it to you. Maybe tomorrow. I'll try to tack it on this video, so you can actually see it. It's just a really simple little altar, but it's a memory altar. It's meant to serve as a memory altar and love for our pets, for one thing. And I have this big. I'm not going to pick it up because it weighs too much. But I have a great big saucer from the plants. You know, the pot that you put underneath the big pot to catch the water. And I have stones for every one of those 29 pets that I've had. And these are going to stay on the altar, the permanent remembrance of these. They're not here anymore, but we will remember them, and then signified by the permanence of the stones. And they are different. I have first of all, for dogs, I have hearts. There's Bogart, and here's Finlock, our last big giant that I know some of you knew, Finn. His name was Finlock. I gave him a heart of blue because he was a true blue heart. All the dogs have hearts. Maggie, who came across, Maggie was our first golden retriever, and Brandy, and Tara, who came across with us the very first pets we had in the house, and Chuck and Oliver, our two cats. The cats, okay, the dogs have hearts. The cats, I've given stars. I've given them all stars. And it's sort of shiny. There's Oliver who came with us. Some are gold and some are silver. There's Toots. Because I think cats particularly are very abused in our society. We abuse all of our animals, but cats are the most hated and feared and mistreated, I think, of any animal, any domestic animal at least. And there's as many, there's as many cats who need you as there are stars in the sky, is what I always think. So anytime somebody loses a cat, I might get another cat. I know you want to mourn your cat, but they don't have time. The cats are being destroyed so rapidly, they don't have time. But each one of the stones with their name on it, there's Chica, she was born under our woodpile, represents a story, right, that was here. Francis and Toots and Molly and Jimmy and we're all they were a litter of kittens that we spent a summer trying to capture that were feral, living under a deck, which we captured. I have Helen Hyacinth here, who was nearly dead. She was deaf, just a bag of bones my dog found in our yard, hiding just inside an enclosed yard. I don't even know how she got in there, but she did, and she knew to come here for her last, I don't know how many months of her life that she lived. She had obviously been dumped. Anyway, we have that. We have, of course, like the chickens I said, the chickens are all little suns because they brighten. There's no more joy than you can get. Here's Cha-Cha from a sun, from a chicken. Yeah, they give us eggs, but boy, they give us so much more. I'm not even going to, and here's Patsy, who now became her name immortalized forever on this stone. So I feel so good about it, Calliope, Winifred. It just makes me feel good, and I can go out there and I can hold. And when I was painting the stones, here's Buck. When I was painting the stones, I was remembering, my husband and I were remembering, how we obtained had something unique about them. There are 4 of them that are bunnies, and that's the flowers. They're the little flowers. Here's Rosemary. My youngest daughter, had bunnies. She had 3 bunnies that she just put everything she had into these bunnies. Kept them immaculate clean, kept their little hutch immaculate clean, brought them out every afternoon to play with them, and she did everything for them, and they were just so bunnies are so fragile. They really are fragile. They're hard to keep healthy. And of course, they eventually all died, and it was heartbreaking. But then we had this little bunny, Bunny Buttons, we called him, who was a little somebody else's bunny, who had lived in our cul-de-sac with a little white bunny for the longest time, for maybe a year or two. And then the little white bunny disappeared, and Bunny Buttons moved into our backyard and just lived there for, I think, at least 3 years, maybe longer. We never did anything for the bunny. I mean, he just lived there alone by himself. He was not shy. He would come out and he would eat the rose bushes, and he liked the little tangerines when they dried on the tree, and he ate weeds and grass, and I never fed him except for in the very early spring if I had like immature seedlings or something in the garden, but I didn't want him to bother. I would feed him some things, but he was happier just picking stuff himself. Like, he didn't really, he didn't really care. But anyway, he was such a sweet little bunny, and we really missed him when he stopped coming around. We have Mario, who was a cat that lived in our yard for years. He just lived here. We have an outdoor kitchen out there, and that was his house. And he came in and lived with us for a couple winters. We brought him in the winter, but as soon as it got warm weather, he just had to go outside. He just wanted outside. He didn't want to be in the house. But he was very affectionate. And boy, we miss having him around. Anyway, so this is just a little thing. Oh, and I was telling my daughter about it. She was so excited about it because, my children, this is their childhood, all these animals. And she reminded me that we did have 2 little parakeets. We got one little parakeet because one of my daughters worked at a local pet shop just across this way here, and a little pet store, and they did sell birds, but somebody had either abandoned this bird, or I don't know what happened to it. Somebody found it, or I don't know what happened. They brought it into the pet store, and of course they really weren't selling it because they didn't know where it came from or how old it was or anything like that. So they were just keeping it in a little cage in the back room, and she felt so bad that little bird was all by itself back there that she brought it home, and we had this little, because I had parakeets as a young girl. I really thought they were cute, little budgies, I think they call. And his name was Louie, and she said I needed to give him a stone. So he got a little stone. I didn't put his name on it. I put a letter L. His name was Louie, but it was Louie, Gaelic name Louie, which is probably about 9 or 10 letters, and I couldn't fit it on his little stone. But we felt kind of bad for him because he had to stay in the room with the door closed for the time, most of the time, because we had cats. We don't want the cats to get in and bother him. So he was lonely. So we went out and got him a little bird, which we named Region Louie, which means Louie's little bird in Gaelic. And here's Region Louie's little stone. And they, when Louie passed, Region was real sad, and Region sort of didn't thrive very well. But he passed soon later. So on their stone, I just put them in the sky instead of locked up in the room in the cages, which I don't like to see birds in cages too much. I put them flying up in the clouds, and there's Louie representing by the bluebird. I know you can't probably see it. Just a symbol for flying, for the wings that I use on my witch's runes. And Louie with Region Louie following him, and here on Region's stone it's Region Louie with Louie following him. They're flying together up in the sky. So that's sort of a sweet thing, and they're going to be in here with these others. Anyway, I just thought it was a nice, it was very healing for me, and I think doing something like this is a really lovely thing to do for those of you who have given your heart to pets and have lost them and just have so much trouble moving on from them and giving your heart to new pets. This is a wonderful exercise. And I'm going, like I said, I have an altar outside, and I will show you. I'll film it later. And that they're just going to live out there in the yard on this altar and be remembered. And anytime we want, we can pick up a stone and talk about the stone. And just the feeling of the stone in your hand is a good connection for me to the memory of the pet that is on the stone. Little Merryweather here. Merryweather is one of the kittens that were born out here in this very front yard under a bush. Their mother came and brought this little litter, and all those kittens we divided up between ourselves and our friends and my daughter. And my daughter is the only one that has one. Oh no, there's three of them that are still alive. But Merryweather is deceased, and one of her sisters is also, so very prematurely. They were very young when they died, but so it was very sad. But anyway, that's that. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to tag on the end. I'll show you the altar when it's finished. So, not a big deal. Wasn't a very maybe interesting video for some of you, but I feel good. It feels good. It feels good for me. It feels really good for me to be able to share a little bit about some of the pets that have meant so much to me. So, anyway, more later. Thank you for watching. As always, I wish you blessings. I thought some of you might be curious what the source of the water running is that you hear sometimes when I'm sitting in my parlor. You're going to be hearing a lot more of it. So if that offends you, you might want to go elsewhere. I started a series a while ago, Shop Your Garage, and that's what you're looking at right now, this little fountain. I don't know, we came across it somewhere, and the base was a completely different find. I think it was broken. We put them together. They've been in the backyard for a long time, but they were kind of buried behind my lime tree back there, so we brought it out here, and this is where we're making this little altar space. Here I told you about the little stones. So this is near my front door, coming up to my front door. And we found a statue here of St. Francis, patron saint of the animals. We thought was perfect. And here's a nice, beautiful wind chime that you're going to be hearing too. My husband just got me that for my birthday. But anyway, we thought this was a really nice little space to use for our animal altar. This is right across from a little pergola that we built a couple summers ago. I'll show you that later when we get it set up. But so we're going to still be able to have the water running. We used to have a little pond over to the left, but we tore it out. The dogs would not stay out of it. So the fountain serves the purpose. We like the sound of the water, but also the birds here in the garden and the bees, all the pollinators. It gives them a nice source of water, fresh water, which we think is really important. So that's what we've done. And we also recycled pots, I wanted to say. Well, all of these pots are recycled. We got them they were going to be tossed. Mostly from my daughter, who likes things that match. Her husband likes things that match. So anyway, I just thought I would share. You can see all the names. Maybe if I get a little closer, you can see some of the rocks. The little stones with the names of all of our pets. That we can, anytime we want, we can come out here and reminisce about the wonderful times we had with our pets. So that's all. That's all. I just wanted to share that with you. It makes me happy. It makes me happy. So thank you for letting me share that with you. And thank you for watching. I'm Rebecca the Good Wife, and I wish you blessings.